I'll come to early medieval, sir, if that's fine.
Yeah.
So early medieval also, this time there was a full unit on early medieval. Uh, One full unit, as in 3 questions there were on early medieval. So I think it's a very rewarding section because there is not much to know about it. There is just one broader understanding to know कि हो क्या रहा था early medieval में. What is the debate between colonial perspective and the Indian perspective? Once you get the idea of what was early medieval, it is very easy. So for early medieval, I had prepared society, polity, economy, culture, religion. In these 5 सेक्शन आप नोट्स प्रिपेयर कर लो ऑन अर्ली मिडिवल एंड हमेशा क्वेश्चन एक सेक्शन पे आएगा इट्स ईदर अबाउट द रिलीजन ऑफ अर्ली मिडिवल और द इकोनॉमी so make sure that your notes are इतना comprehensive कि even if there is a question on one sub unit of your notes you can write 3 pages so for
This is
that early
this is little counterintuitive, to be very honest, because I have myself as a student and then as a teacher and many students try to struggle more with early medieval. I'll tell you the reason also. There are two reasons, to be very honest, or the three reasons. One is that this comes at the end of ancient India book, at the beginning of the medieval book. So there is no one single book that covers the complete early medieval at one place. Secondly, there is no one major empire. A lot of regional polities are there. It gets all the more confusing. And thirdly, the debates that you are referring to, there are so rich debates that I don't know what stance to take at the end. How do I approach that? Mm.
that, it is quite complicated, sir. But I think we all know that in conclusion, you don't have to give a definitive answer to the examiner. Even the examiner knows कि उसको भी नहीं पता है कि क्या था. So everything is open-ended here. So rather than writing a thesis answer, you just write whatever diplomatic stand you can take in the conclusion that this was the thing, and more research is needed in this section. And that is one conclusion that you can use in early medieval especially क्योंकि research नहीं हुआ है इतना so you can really write कि it needs to be further researched and it is true that there is no one source for it but there are certain you have already uploaded the YouTube video lectures so I think people can refer to that uh, level up का material भी है and apart from that IGNU का material है on early medieval that is also quite enriching for medieval as well as early medieval. IGNU material is good. So these 3 things. In terms of debates, historiography becomes important. A lot of historiography in this section that is not conventionally present at one place. So I think that is also something that is covered in the optional classes. So that is it. But since the debates are so lengthy, I used to prepare mind maps. So there's a very interesting concept. Sherlock Holmes used to build mind palace. So when you close your eyes, you can imagine things that are happening. So I used to do this trick whenever I used to have a very broad timeline based questions. I used to close my eyes and imagine what the era was actually like. And usme imagine what the economy is like, what the polity is like, and the society. When you prepare that mind map, it becomes easy to recall. And you make tricks and tips to remember these. So this was something that I did. Also, make sure that your answers are interconnected. Early medieval is a section that if you're talking about religion, it is bound to be interconnected by decentralized polity or economy. So land grants. So interconnectedness is very important in early medieval. And yes, again, you cannot afford to focus just on the mainstream subjects and ignore the peripheral topics. इस साल भी ऐसे questions आए थे where you can attempt the section A, B, but the C question is something that requires you to have a peripheral knowledge about a subsection in syllabus. So make sure that you have something about everything and not everything about something in the syllabus. तो horizontal expansion ज़्यादा होना चाहिए rather than the vertical depth of the topic. So this was it about early medieval. Um, Coming to medieval, sources were limited. Satish Chandra, there were 2 parts of Satish Chandra book and IGNU material. Again, MA IGNU material for medieval India. Apart from that, again, test discussions and the value addition material that we did in the classes. The second part is that in medieval India, the questions are very theme based. It's not very specific. So, for example, there is a broad question on the economy of Sultanate, Mughal, or the 18th century. So, again, a very broad based, theme based notes on Sultanate, Mughal, 18th century. For Sultanate, economy, polity, religion, same with all these themes. But in such note making, you do miss certain peripheral topics like Bhakti and Sufi, which is something that goes constantly. So for that, I had made different notes for, especially for Bhakti Sufi. First of all, I used to read the PYQs of Bhakti Sufi, then prepare the notes, and then add some historiography or certain value addition to it. So again, these are low hanging fruits. Bhakti Sufi is something that will always come in the paper, and it is something that you have to prepare different notes for. Uh, Third problem is that regional kingdoms बहुत है medieval India में. Uh, Pallavas and Vijayanagar, Bahamani. So for that, the information is limited in the books or very scattered, to be really honest. So I used ChatGPT a lot, not for the information part, but for the structuring part at least, for the factual political part. That ChatGPT can really help you a lot. And again, the test papers ki solution. The fourth thing that comes is the political questions in medieval India. It is true that कुछ debatable questions होते हैं which are quite sensitive in the given era. So that political question needs you to have a very diplomatic, balanced stance. For example, in this year, I attempted the Aurangzeb question as well because I found it very interesting, and I just thought that I need to attempt this. And for that, I made sure that you give the comprehensive view of that era. जब भी कोई एक पर्सनालिटी पे टारगेटेड होके क्वेश्चन आता है, देयर इज एन हिडन डिमांड दैट यू give the other circumstances that were present around that personality and not just blame everything on one person. So for that, make sure that you understand why things happened, what were the other viewpoints that scholars are giving, and then give a conclusion that is neutral, objective, and something that is balanced. So I think that is the way to answer these questions. Fifth is interpretation based question. A lot of questions in medieval India have hidden demand. Again, I'll take one example that in this year, Fatwa e Jahandari of Barni, that question came in 15 marker, I think. Again, it is not something that we cover conventionally. But I knew what was the demand of the question. I knew that they were asking how biased Barni was given the circumstances of that era. And I wrote that question, although it was 3 pager and I did not have that much content. But if you understand the demand of the question and write it simply, not even exaggerating or making multiple points, just writing the answer simply, I think that also rewards. So, understanding the demand of the question and then making simple points out of it for medieval India, especially for difficult questions. I think that
Hmm.
helped. Uh,
Right.
Yes, sir. Just one last thing that in 10 markers, we have, especially in medieval India, 10 markers are quite difficult because we have less content, especially in this year, like there were questions on karkhanas and gunpowder. Again, we do not have much content about it, but these are 10 markers. We have to write 2 pages on it. So for that, make sure that you write peripheral knowledge if you don't have much knowledge on that topic. Give the larger background of the century. What was the implication of that technology or whatever? For example, gunpowder. If they're asking about it, then what was the background of it? What were its implication? Again, divide your answer in so many points that your content becomes enriching. Like even if you're writing 30 words on each subtopic, it will show the examiner that you know a lot of things. So again, if you don't have much content, use flowcharts, boxes, maps, and such things. So I think 10 markers me you can adopt this strategy.
But you have to
Lastly,
finish the full paper.
yes, you have to
Yeah.
attempt from the starting to the end. Each and every paper you have to fill it fully. So for that, थोड़ा सा आगे पीछे जाना पड़ता है if you don't know the content. But again, lastly, I'll just say कि paper one is a very factual heavy paper. So I think उसमें revision बहुत important है. Otherwise you do forget names, dates, or in general the historiography. So for that, again, as I showed, I made sticky notes for each and every topic, and I just stuck it in the front of my eyes so that I have to see it every day. सेकेंडली आई मेड श्योर कि अगर मैंने टॉपिक पढ़ा है, मैं उसको समराइज कर दूं वॉइस नोट में खुद से ही, और वो वॉइस नोट मैं रात को सुन लूं या कभी और वॉक करते करते सुन लूं. सो दैट वॉइस नोट्स ऑल्सो मेक्स श्योर कि आप रिविजन एज अ बर्डन ना लो, बट एज अ लीनियंट फन एक्टिविटी ले लो. Then thirdly, there were topics, especially in world history, jo it is not easy to imagine world history. It is easy to imagine medieval and early India. So for that, I used to make sure कि मैं एक flatmate को सामने बिठा लेती थी, and I used to explain all the topics to her. And if you explain that topic to someone else, आपके subconscious mind में खुद चले जाता है. So make sure you do this, especially for very lengthy topics like Marathas or Rajputs. So try to explain the topic to somebody else. Fourthly, value addition is really important for early and medieval, paper one specifically. Everybody knows something about ancient India and medieval India. You have to stand out from them. And for that, make sure that you add certain interpretations that are not very conventional. For example, these were my notes of Bhakti and Sufi. And in Bhakti and Sufi, what was the role of women? If there's any question that comes on Bhakti and Sufi, I knew कि मैं women का aspect भी डालूंगी. So a little about women, also a little about historiography. So in just like 1/4 of the page, I had written all the historiographical opinions of the scholars on Bhakti and Sufi. So it's a very small note, but this is something that will fetch you marks. So this is something that I did again. And lastly, equal focus on all the topics. You cannot ignore religion, architecture, especially in early and medieval India. So make sure that I think Nikhil sir and Vishal sir will help you a lot in these topics. But I think don't ignore these topics. ये बहुत important है. And then lastly, history optional में it is not necessary to write very fast. It is necessary to think very fast. मैं I think this is something that I realized जब मेरे पेपर कंप्लीट नहीं हो रहे थे. It is not because I write slowly. It is because I think slowly. अगर आप एक टॉपिक रिवाइज नहीं करते हो तो you take a lot of time to think कि वो क्या था, वो क्या लिखा था, and in that time your time gets wasted. So make sure that you revise a lot, brainstorm a lot, and automatically आपका पेपर कंप्लीट होने लग जाएगा. So this was it for paper one. I think we can have questions.